Krsna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Hare Krishna, welcome. Bhagavad-gita, as it is, we are reading Bhagavad-gita, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and I'm Labanka Latika. We are reading the chapter 6, Jnana Yoga, and today texts 11 and 12 are together, so I will read the Sanskrit. Suchodeshe pratisthapya stihiramasanamatmanaha natyuchritang natinichang kailajina kushotaram tatrekagrang mana kritva yatachitendriya kriyaha upavishyasane yunja yogamatma vishuddhaye. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses and activities and fixing the mind on one point. Purport. Sacred place refers to places of pilgrimage. In India, the yogis, the transcendentalists or the devotees all leave home and reside in sacred places such as Prayag, Mathura, Vrindavan, Rishikesh and Haridwar, and in solitude practice yoga where the sacred rivers like the Yamuna and the Ganges flow. But often this is not possible, especially for Westerners. The so-called yoga societies in big cities may be successful in earning material benefit, but they are not at all suitable for the actual practice of yoga. One who is not self-controlled and whose mind is not undisturbed cannot practice meditation. Therefore, in the Brihanaradiya Purana, it is said that in Kali Yuga, the present yuga or age, when people in general are short-lived, slow in spiritual realization and always disturbed by various anxieties, the best means of spiritual realization is to chant the holy name of the Lord. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nameva Kevalam, Kalo Nascheva 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 Gatiranyata. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. So we hear that in the Vedas. If something is repeated 3 times, it means it's very important. So this description of a yogi in a secluded place, and there's an understanding of all this kusha grass and the deer skin. It means the insects will not come and it will be the right position to focus, and then that meditation starts and it doesn't end. So it's not something that you go to for a meeting every once in a while and think you're doing yoga or meditation, because that's not actually meditation. It's actually very, very difficult. In this age it is very difficult because both most of us who are born in this age and also the general atmosphere in the world, they don't support this level of focus on the mind and spiritual activities. So yes, we are reading about the Jnana Yoga, but we are recommending Bhakti Yoga at every step, because the goal is the same, the principles are the same, but it is described that in different ages, different processes are mostly recommended. In the other ages, those processes are also part of it. Our main process is the meditation on Krishna's name, but we're also doing deity worship, temple worship. We're also doing yagyas, great, offerings, but the focus is on the holy name. And that is a form of meditation that is easier to perform, because it's not a question of starting off by focusing the mind. It is a question of putting oneself in the connection with the holy name, and then the mind will be drawn there. Of course, it's not an automatic process. It will take time. It will take some kind of determination also. So we can continue for the rest of our lives to improve our level of chanting the holy name. But at least there is some hope. For this other form of meditation, it's very difficult. I will read the next couple of verses also here. We have text 13-14 together. Samam kaya shiro grivang dharayan achalang stiraha samprekshya nashika grang svang dishas-chanavalokayan prashantatma vigatta bhir brahmachari vrate stitaha manasang yam yamachitto yukta asita matparaha. One should hold one's body, neck and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. And that's Krishna speaking. Purport. The goal of life is to know Krishna, who is situated within the heart of every living being, as Paramatma, the four-handed Vishnu form. The yoga process is practiced in order to discover and see this localized form of Vishnu, and not for any other purpose. The localized Vishnu Murti is the plenary representation of Krishna dwelling within one's heart. One who has no program to realize this Vishnu Murti is uselessly engaged in mock yoga practice and is certainly wasting his time. Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and the Vishnu Murti situated in one's heart is the object of yoga practice. To realize this Vishnu Murti within the heart, one has to observe complete abstinence from sex life. Therefore, one has to leave home and live alone in a secluded place. Remaining seated as mentioned above, one cannot enjoy sex life daily at home or elsewhere and attend a so-called yoga class and thus become a yogi. One has to practice controlling the mind and avoiding all kinds of sense gratification, of which sex life is the chief. Yes, we're becoming a little strong here, because there is so much, exploitation going around. Maybe even more when Prabhupada wrote these books. He came here in the middle of the 60s, and he kept... he was here from 65 to 77. He came to America, he traveled around the world, he translated the Bhagavad-gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and at that time there were many groups of so-called yogis coming from India, and some were probably sincere and some were not. And in order to, help people not to get confused or misdirected, the sincere seeker of spiritual life has the right to know what is what. Of course, anyone can do anything, and I'm sure going to yoga classes as a physical exercise is not a problem if what you want is physical exercise. But if you want spiritual realization, it's very important to understand the principles of spiritual realization. This form of meditation is supposed to become unbroken. That yogi is supposed to endeavor to come to the level of samadhi, of trance, of internal trance, when the consciousness is completely turned on the inside, and finding supersoul in the heart, and in this way finding the goal of the human form of life. And the next step from there is bhakti. And there is so much... it's hard to tell if it's ignorance or if it's exploitation, but this idea that you can meditate a little bit and then you become a little more peaceful, and that's very nice. Yes, but it is not yoga. Yoga means you want to reach the completion, the complete realization, the complete level of trance, of samadhi. And in this yoga process, that can only be done by very strongly renouncing everything of this material world, by very strongly fixing your mind on that meditation. And here it's described how sex life is the strongest distraction of them all. No other yoga system has room for that. Bhakti yoga has room for family life. It is quite possible to have a family, to have children, to have that level of controlled sex life. even while practicing Bhakti Yoga. And of course, it's also possible to start meditating on Krishna's name, starting to perform devotional service before one has become completely determined and completely fixed and in a decision to give up all these other levels of sense gratification and distractions of the mind and of the focus in one's life. So therefore, as we just heard here, the holy name of Krishna is a very powerful thing. But it's good to understand what we're dealing with when we're speaking of meditation, because sometimes we get a very watered down version that is not giving us that opportunity to fully realize our spiritual nature, and we need to know that. Here we see, in the rules of celibacy written by the great sage Yajnavalkya, it is said, Karmana manasa vacha sarvavasthasu sarvada sarvatra maituna tyago brahmacharyang prachakshate. The vow of brahmacharya is meant to help one completely abstain from sex indulgence in work, words and mind at all times, under all circumstances and in all places. No one can perform yoga practice through self-indulgence. Brahmacharya is taught therefore from childhood, when one has no knowledge of sex life. Children at the age of 5 are sent to the Gurukula, or the place of the spiritual master, and the master trains the young boys in the strict discipline of becoming brahmacharis. Without such practice, no one can make advancement in any yoga, whether it be dhyana, jnana or bhakti. One who, however, follows the rules and regulations of married life, having a sexual relationship only with his wife, and that also under regulation, and of course, for the woman, this refers to the relationship with the husband, is also called a brahmachari. Such a restrained householder brahmachari may be accepted in the bhakti school, but the jnana and jnana schools do not even admit householders brahmacharis. They require complete abstinence without compromise. In the bhakti school, a householder brahmachari is allowed controlled sex life because the cult of bhakti yoga is so powerful that one automatically loses sexual attraction, being engaged in the superior service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad-gita 2.59 it is said, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjang rasopyasya parang drishtva nivartate. Whereas others are forced to restrain themselves from sense gratification, a devotee of the Lord automatically refrains because of superior taste. Other than the devotee, no one has any information of that superior taste. Vigata bhi, one cannot be fearless unless one is fully in Krishna consciousness. A conditioned soul is fearful due to his perverted memory, his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. The Bhagavatam 11.2.37 says, Bhayang dvitiya bhiniveshata syad ishad apetasya viparyayo smriti. Krishna consciousness is the only basis for fearlessness. Therefore, perfect practice is possible for a person who is Krishna conscious. And since the ultimate goal of yoga practice is to see the Lord within, a Krishna conscious person is already the best of all yogis. The principles of the yoga system mentioned herein are different from those of the popular so-called yoga societies. Yeah, so we had the last verse of the 5th chapter that describes the basis for peacefulness. A person in full consciousness of me, Krishna says, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entity, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. And that means also fear. Here it says a person who is free of fear, that level is possible to attain when we see Krishna everywhere. When we see that our nature, our goal, our direction is to engage in that loving relationship of service to Krishna. Or here also indirectly, the yogis, the jnanis, they are also moving in the direction of indirect service to Krishna. And when we see that Krishna is the proprietor and owner of everything, and when we see that he's our well-wishing friend, that's when we can give up fear. Because otherwise, how is it possible? We're looking at anyone. In this world, we sometimes think the birds are very free. They can fly, they can go anywhere they want. But if you observe the little birds, how they're hopping around and picking at little things to eat, they're constantly checking if there's something to fear, if they need to fly away to avoid some danger in this world, because this world is full of danger. As long as we are on the bodily platform, as long as we identify with this material body. But that level of peacefulness comes from fearlessness, actually, because if you have fear, how can you be peaceful? And if we can actually realize that point, that Krishna, if we turn to him, then there is nothing that is not under his control, and he's actually our well-wisher, then it will become possible to be peaceful. So yes, sometimes it's a little difficult to sit with a verse like this that basically focuses on brahmacharya, on celibacy. In this world, well, celibacy, it's just a word from the past and nobody can relate to it. Even sometimes it's considered harmful, and sometimes it's considered the cause of many problems, like we have heard in different religious organizations. There has been problems with the priestly group abusing children for sexual satisfaction. The problem is actually not celibacy, because if there would have been celibacy, there would have been no sexual problems. The problem is the lack of realization and the lack of, taste and satisfaction on a spiritual level. So therefore, Bhakti Yoga, we don't recommend that anyone does anything hasty and without consideration. We recommend that we start the practices that connect us strongly on the level of the heart, on the level of the soul, that connect us to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, mostly by chanting Krishna's name, also by trying to be in the association with other like-minded persons. But then when we become more serious, when we become kind of determined, when we make that decision, yes, what I really want to do in this life is practice God consciousness, is realizing my spiritual nature, then we will find that celibacy is very, very helpful, and also, as unlikely as it may sound, it's actually a quite natural way to live. It's a peaceful way to live, and it's a helpful way to live. But yes, I will not say to someone listening to the Bhagavad-gita for the first time, it may not be the place where you start. Then start somewhere else. Start by understanding the principle of yoga, of focusing the mind and coming closer to God. And maybe start to take up the chanting of the holy name. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare